guys met early?
6 or 7.
Like every single Saturday, one of us would scream each other's name at like 7 a.m. like every morning.
Running around, playing tag. Like, it's not a lost art, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's pure.
I had this super distinct memory when I yelled his name, regular stuff, and then we were like sitting on either side of the fence, and he told me that they were moving. That was like first experience with heartbreak. Just.
I'm going to switch a little bit because, Dom, you have an interesting story I was hoping you would tell. And maybe it's actually really sad. You had a friend that passed away.
We fall down, but we get up.
Welcome back to Hometown Friends and the first episode of 2025. On this episode, we hear from two young men that have experienced the love and fellowship from growing up in the same neighborhood and have found the feeling of brotherhood that comes from having seminal experiences together. I've known Dominic Solvin-Sykes and Ben Morgan since they were just little kids, as I've known their parents and have seen them grow up. When they recently returned from college, I was one of those adults that would stop and chat with them about their lives. And when I told them about this podcast, they wanted to participate together because they immediately understood the profound and special qualities of the long-term friendships that come from our hometowns. These young men are in a unique place in life where they have gone off to college and begun their journey into adulthood and have met many people from other places and can now really start to appreciate the special qualities of the long-term friendships like the ones they have with each other. They can now begin to compare and reflect on the memories of their childhood that have influenced them, and they can choose the people that they want to be around and have in their lives. Our conversation touches on identity formation, place attachment, and the value of vulnerability and non-judgment in friendships. I hope you enjoy getting to know these guys as they share their special and intimate relationship.
Ben Morgan and Dominic Sykes, welcome to the Hometown Friends podcast, you guys.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
So I've known your parents, and that's how I got to know you. I saw you grow up. But then chatting with you guys individually over time in different arenas has given me such an appreciation and affection for who you are as people. Super excited to meet with you guys and talk with you guys and your friendship in general.
Well, first of all, I'm embarrassed that we both wore a white shirt. I was trying to go more casual than Dom would ever happened, but whatever.
Yeah, tell us about what this friendship has looked like over time. You guys met early, 7 years old, 6, 7 years old.
Sounds about right, 6 or 7.
How did you guys meet and what's it felt like?
But I remember when I first started going to Emerson, my mom told me, oh, like there's this kid, Ben, he's a grade below you. Like I know his mom and my mom lived, I don't know, like a 2-minute walk away. She lived right on the block above. And I remember, I don't know how me and Ben actually met. Like, I don't remember the first time we met, but I just remember we became friends at school. And then the following year, I ended up moving right behind Ben.
So I'm actually looking at Dom's former house right now, which is crazy. My mom made sure that I brought this up today, so I'm going to bring this up now. I think one big thing that was super funny when we got really tight in elementary school, it was like, I think we're both morning people, I would say. Or at least, I feel like everyone's a morning person in elementary school. But I think I'm still a morning person. I don't know what Dom would say. But I just remember third grade on, every single Saturday and every day in the summer, I just one of us would scream each other's name at 7 a.m. Every morning. That she said that multiple times she caught me dreaming and saying Dom at 5:30 in the morning and being like, Dom. So
almost every day, I'd hop over the fence because he lived pretty much directly behind me, one house to the right if you're looking towards my old house, and just hop over the fence early morning or in the evening, and we would all just play. I mean, until we had to go to sleep. Like we'd go on the trampoline, we'd play catch, football. I mean, whatever we wanted to. We play tag around the block. And then we stayed really close, like really close, I think, until like sixth, seventh grade. And because we moved to Oakland.
I had this super distinct memory when like I like yelled his name, regular stuff, and then we were like sitting on either side of the fence, and he told me that they were moving. It was like sixth grade. That was like first experience with heartbreak, like first like just so sad. But still invited him to Stinson every summer. And I think I always like I don't know about Dom, but like every time I was like, this might be kind of awkward. Like I haven't talked to this guy for like more than an hour and like since last year.
Totally.
And then we'd pick him up from probably his house in Oakland and then just instant laughs, you know, like just, I mean, my mom loves Dom, like everyone loves Dom, like just like laughing it up in the car. And then
Is immediate.
I feel like just immediate every time. And then I feel like our standard routine is that we would like get to our house in Stinson and jump in the lagoon and then like kind of get in the hot tub after, like every time. And then just like, remember like sitting in the hot tub every time being like, we just talked like an hour and a half in the hot tub. And then just like, and I just knew it was going to be a good couple of days. Like it was just always great every time. So I think we've been to Stinson together like, I don't know, 8 times, 7 times. What do you think?
Well, yeah, it's up there for sure. I mean, since we were young.
Yeah. And there's something about Stinson too. It's such like a pure experience. Like you don't want to be on your phone there. Like it's just like quiet, tranquil, like the cloudy, nice weather. And so you just like a lot of walks, a lot of swimming, like learning to surf together. So just a lot of like pure, like phoneless, video gameless memories.
That really brings the connection, the human connection, right? When you don't have all these other distractions and you have this quiet place and you have like this dedicated time to be with each other.
And it's like just Dom and my family. So it's just very like, so like insular and nice. And then, yeah, last thing I was just going to say is that about like kind of getting back to being really tight. I think we like went to Stinson in like 2021, maybe.
Yeah.
And then it was just like, it was great as usual. And I think we were kind of just like, why don't we kick it more? Like, this is weird. Like we just had to spend a whole week together and we live like a block away. Why don't we just hang out more?
I love that. I love a couple things stick out about that you got sort of hooked up by your parents who were loosely connected friends. So you're kind of the second generation of friends of that family. Like your families are tied together. So it must feel like kind of cousins in a lot of ways.
It does.
And then
Definitely.
this other thing, which is like you guys purposely sort of gravitated to each other, but you didn't lose track necessarily. You were just maybe not hanging out, constantly. But then when you have this opportunity to actually make an effort to do it, you kind of came back to it because it was meaningful. It's a meaningful friendship, and there's a loyalty there that just continues on. I love that about friendship in general, is that once we feel connected to somebody, especially if they know our folks and we're sort of like family, then it's so easy to pick up where you left off. So I love that part of
Definitely.
the hometown friend experience in general.
Yeah, I mean, Ben's one of my best friends. So
What, like anybody from any hometown, what does it mean to come from that place? Where we're from, we're attached to, or if it's good, we have this attachment to it, and it represents part of ourselves in a lot of ways. What do you guys think?
I moved a lot. I mean, I definitely moved a lot. But if anyone asks me where I'm from, I say Berkeley. I mean, I'm from Berkeley, although my, home base wasn't always in Berkeley, especially in high school. Like as soon as I got my license, I would say I was out of the house more than I was in the house, like in Berkeley. Like I was always, because all my friends lived in Berkeley, and I really, like, I love spending time with my friends. I think even more so, not that I don't anymore, but I had a hard time being alone, like in high school. Like I wasn't comfortable with myself. And so for that reason, even more so, I would always want to be with my friends, like, or anyone, but I would always be in Berkeley. I'd stay at my grandma's a lot. Yeah. I say I'm from Berkeley. I mean, I love Berkeley. Yeah, I mean,
I'm
Yeah,
very,
I'm from here. I'm from here.
I
So
love it. I say the same thing, Dom. I never said I was from anywhere else, although I lived in other places. I'm always from Berkeley. And yeah, I mean, in fact, I asked this question on Facebook, like, what does being from Berkeley mean?
I've experimented with telling people I'm from Oakland, and it's never met with like a lot of like not as cool as I thought it was going to be. Um, but
Uh,
I tried that for like a month. I'm back to saying I'm from Berkeley.
nice.
Um, but yeah, it took me to like it definitely took me leaving Berkeley for like college to really
Hmm.
appreciate it. I'm sure that's a super common feeling,
I think
but
so.
yeah, I just think I got to like 17, 18 years old, living in the same neighborhood for my whole life, and I was like, I don't know, classic 17-year-old stuff. And then I like go to LA, and every time I come back, I like just walk around Elmwood, like walk around Berkeley. It's so nice here. It's just crazy. You can like have access to like college, Shattuck, all this great food. You can walk into the Berkeley Hills. You can like there's just so much access. The freeway's right there, but it's somehow not loud here, which is so crazy. Like
Yep.
I don't know. It's just crazy combination of nice things. So I love Berkeley, and after being away from it, like I'm definitely at this point want to move back after school.
Nice.
Yeah, and I think that Berkeley's definitely like painted my like uh idea of like what I look for in like friends or like partners and stuff. Like my my two best friends I met at school who are not hometown friends
Hmm.
are both just like people that you would think are from Berkeley. You know, like super like just like crunchy, funny guys, like just, they're hikers, all the Berkeley stuff. And then like, all the girls I've been into at college, like they all wear those little like New Yorker tote bags and like and they're just like they're real like they think they're all sophisticated and stuff. Like Berkeley, just classic Berkeley stuff.
It does inform who we look for and who we're attracted to. It does. I think that's right. I've dated many women all over the East Coast, and when I found a Berkeley girl, I just fell in love. I was just like, "You're from my hometown. We're like speak the same language." It's
Yeah.
crazy.
can't beat that.
I think that familiarity is very deep. Like maybe people have that in their hometowns. I'm guessing they do, right? We cannot be alone in this experience, right? Of having that familiarity be pretty attractive.
I can definitely resonate with like uh how much it's both a blessing and a curse how much like I like Berkeley and how nice it is here. Uh because like in my like in a square mile I have like five family members, like Dom, like my friend Eli, like best friends I've grown around. So it's so hard to like not want to live here. And yeah, I think it's also important though to like move to other places and like discover different like parts of yourself that are only gonna be brought out in new environments and all that. So yeah, I'm actually juggling that right now because I do at this moment I do want to live home. I like want to move home after school, but I do want to like be an interesting person and like have a lot of interesting experiences and like not that I can't have interesting experiences in Berkeley, but it would just be awesome to like I know Dom loves Europe and I know that's like probably something that he's juggling too, but like yeah, I love New York, love Boston, but it's just yeah, living somewhere for so long, I'm just so incredibly comfortable here, and
Hmm.
I also just I just there's so many places in Berkeley to run into people.
Hmm.
Like I feel like I come home for a week and like I'll walk on the fire trail or I'll walk down college to like cold coffee and like I see like four mostly parents. I feel like I run into a lot of parents, and it's like I don't know, just people are nice here. They ask a lot of questions. You get to talk about yourself. Like
But I truly feel that like people who are from Berkeley have this very like unique and special connection and attachment growing up in Berkeley, and then I left to Santa Barbara. I really like, and kind of like Ben, I like wanted to get out, but then when I was actually out of Berkeley, I felt like it just felt almost weird being somewhere else. And it's like Berkeley has this bubble there. It's and everyone's heard it, but there's the Berkeley bubble, and like that's a good thing and a bad thing. But it's the Berkeley bubble is the reason why it's such a special place, also where people, or like people I've been around at least, we all feel just so connected. And you're always like longing for that same feeling somewhere else that you can never quite get. No matter where you go, no matter what people you meet. Like Ben said, his friends are super similar to people, but like they're never truly going to be like Berkeley people. And like Ben, like in Santa Barbara, I think I had a hard time making friends maybe because in the back of my mind, I probably was seeking a Berkeley hometown friend that like just unfortunately was never going to come to be.
Yeah, there's a sense of community, right? That you're surrounded by people that are familiar to you, that are curious about you. I think that's a good feeling in a lot of ways to have a community, even if they are old people like me.
Nothing wrong with
Yeah.
that.
Man, I'm glad I'm alive. But it's great to, again, to have a community and to feel connected, to feel a sense of belonging. And when we have that sense of belonging, we're able to actually do amazing things, right? We're able to take risks. We're able to go out in the world and explore, as Ben was saying, right? And we're able to have confidence in ourselves. And I think our friends, at least in my world, my friends gave me a sense of belonging. And they weren't doing it on purpose, I don't think. Nobody was thinking about this, but then I took it and now I reflect back on it and I think, wow, without these people in my life, I probably wouldn't have struck out or made new friends or had the confidence to do the things that I wanted to do. And just sort of having a place that I was from and people I was connected to and that I had that sense of belonging really made a difference in my life going forward. And it's given me all the confidence in the world to feel a sense of belonging. What do you guys think about this concept of feeling belonging to some place and someone?
When I think about like three important qualities that I like to have from my friends, and I think not all of my friends have these three qualities, but for me to like really be close with someone, they have to have, honesty. Um, they need to be vulnerable, like for me, because I feel like I'm pretty vulnerable. Not like I said, all my friends I have different relationships with, and I can get to a different amount of vulnerability with them, depending on our experiences together in the past. Maybe if I relate to them and their story, but they have to be honest, vulnerable, and just have a lot of integrity. Like, are you going to do the right thing when no one's watching? Are you going to speak up when something isn't right? Are you going to, it also comes down to like integrity to me is also like Ben said, like telling your friend when they're not doing something right or saying, hey, I actually don't agree with what you're doing. Or dude, you're being silly because of this. Like telling them like, and for me, I'm very honest. So it's hard for me sometimes to say certain stuff, but at the end of the day, it's like when you build that kind of relationship and friendship with your friends, it's just so much more powerful and close. And so those are three things that are important with all my friends. And I feel like all my friends have at least one of those qualities.
Ben, what you want to tell us a little bit about your friendship?
The honesty thing is so big that Don was talking about for me. It's just so exhausting, like trying to like decipher people's like if they're being passive aggressive or like decipher if they're trying to like if they're mad but they're not, if they're just tired. But like
Yeah,
it's just nice to be on someone like Dom. It's just like you know what the vibe is. Like it's just nice. It's just open and free and you can and back to belonging. Like it's just like you can belong without you can be present without just deciphering if there's extra stuff going on in the dynamic.
totally. God, that's so important. It's like a feeling. It's hard to even articulate sometimes, but when you know it, you know the feeling, right? It's free, as you said,
Yeah. That's
and
free,
it's
yeah.
I love that. And talk a lot to us about vulnerability, you guys. Dom, you really mentioned this. Like, what does it mean to be vulnerable, and why should people be vulnerable with their friends?
I think, well, vulnerability, like for me, I feel like because I've been through a lot, like especially the last 4 years of my life, but then also just throughout my life, I feel like I have an easier time than most people with sharing how I feel. But I think that, I mean, as a man, it's difficult in this world and society to like come forward and be vulnerable and share that you're sad or mad or any feeling. And I think that having that relationship, like with your male friends, is so important because it really brings out this whole other side of like both of you, where you can both, like, you really feel connected. Like, you really feel that you can, like Ben saying, like be yourself, and you feel like you belong, like in that relationship with that person. Like, and it's speaking, like for me, like speaking to a girl about my feelings, whether it's my mom, my aunt, some of my girlfriends, like that is comes more natural, like for me. But like I think that over the years, and like especially these last 4 years, like building this trust and vulnerability with my friends. And like I said, I'm more vulnerable with some are more vulnerable with me than I am with them. But just having that ability to like, it's like you're sitting back in a chair and you just like relax. Like that's like the friendship. Like you can just relax. Like you're not always on your toes. Like, and like Ben saying, like when you have that vulnerability, it also ties into honesty, because then you're really gonna tell that person how you feel. Like it's like, oh, okay, dude, stop. Like I don't want to do this right now. Or you could just, it's as simple as like, sometimes you might feel like you can't even say to your friends like, oh, I'm tired, I want to go home, you know? But like,
Mm-hmm.
it's like I've built those relationships with my friends where I can do that. Or like with Ben too, like if Ben doesn't want to be there anymore, he'll just say like, bro, I'm kind of, I'm pooped. Can I, like, let's just hang out tomorrow. And same thing with me. Or like I can say sometimes with some of my other friends, I might feel a little bad. Like maybe I made plans with someone else and like I haven't seen that person in a while. And I'm like, how am I going to tell them like I need to go with my other friends? And then sometimes you'll make an excuse, but then like with Ben and some of my other friends, especially, like I can just say, hey, like I have plans at 9:30. Like I know we've only been together for an hour. I haven't seen you in 6 months, but like I gotta go. And they're just like, dope. It's all good. We shake hands and we say bye. And that's that. That's all ties back into vulnerability and like what kind of emotions and feelings you bring to the table. So
Yeah.
that's my feelings about it.
I think it brings us depth of relationship that is not there without it. And it sounds like you guys have really figured that out. And it probably comes from, the way you were raised, but also practice doing that and having good friends to be able to reflect like a non-judgment and not, they didn't take advantage of that, right? You've been vulnerable, and then you felt how that feels to be vulnerable, and then to keep having that friendship. There's a depth there that you can't replace with a friend that hasn't seen you hasn't shared vulnerability with you.
Yeah, I think it just says a lot to me and Ben's friendship. And this is just touching on, this is kind of random thought, but I was thinking about, you said something, I can't remember exactly what you said, Chandler, but you just said it like a minute ago or 30 seconds ago. But just the fact that it says a lot to me and Ben's friendship, that, and how like strong it is, and how like I don't see anything breaking it apart, like really no matter what, is that it's like we went like a good 6 years without really, like, we'd see each other maybe once or twice throughout the year from like, besides maybe at school in passing, but where we'd actually hang out and spend time besides in the summer at Stinson. And the fact that we still are just like so connected and like such good friends still. Like I have friends, or they're not my friends anymore, but I've had friendships where like it is like that, where like you don't talk for so long. Um, and then you kind of just go your separate ways, and like you still have that mutual love for each other, but like you just don't see each other anymore. You don't ever talk. You haven't seen them in 6 years, And it's
Yeah.
like that's what's really unique about our friendship, is that we were able to like go do our own things, and at the end of the day we could still come back together, and like nothing ever changed. And I don't know what it is, but it's just like those kind of friendships are just like, they're the best friendships. They're just they're
You're
so special and meaningful, and it's just great. It's just a great feeling. And
you
like
start
it's a
at
great.
like a you started at a higher level because you had that familiarity with each other and you were friends before. Then when you get back into friendship, when you're actually seeing each other, it like can take it to another level.
Mhm.
I think that's what I'm hoping that's what
Yeah,
you're saying.
yeah, it
Yeah,
is.
that's amazing. It is.
But yeah,
And
that
I
was a
think
random thought, but I was
no,
thinking
that's
that.
good thought because I do think it sort of speaks to the hometown friend experience. Like if you've grown up with somebody and then you don't see them for a long time. First of all, one thing that can happen is like, well, we had this friendship, but we never saw each other again, right? We never cultivated it. We never actually got back together. But if you get back together with them and you reconnect that, it's first of all, it's effortless, like what you were saying. And then second of all, you can actually take it to another level of friendship because you have all this background,
Hmm.
which I think is special about the hometown friend experience.
So just as far as non-judgmental goes, like I've just put myself in a bunch of like, silly situations throughout my life. And a lot of times Dom has like been there in the aftermath to like console me and like talk me through it and not judge, which is so nice. Uh, Quick example of that. The most embarrassing moment of my baseball career was senior year of high school, big game against like our like St. Mary's, which is like, it's not technically a rivalry because not in our league, but it's just like private school, public school, Berkeley. Like you want to win that. And I'm a catcher, and I just didn't have it that day. Like the moment got too big or something, and I just kept missing the ball. Never happened to me, and it just kept hitting the umpire like right in the chest, like 4 times. And like, I'm not a pro baseball player, but I play in college. Like I'm not terrible. You know what I mean? Like I should catch the ball.
You're actually pretty good.
Yeah, and so it's happened the fourth time, and then the umpire was like that's it. He looked at my coach and he said, "You either have to eject him from the game, no, you either have to take him out, or I'm going to eject him
Wow.
because it's a safety hazard because he just kept getting hit." And so my coach refused to take me out of the game until the umpire ejected me from the game, like tossed me out of the game.
Wow.
Yeah, and there was like a lot of
I
people
don't
there for that game.
I don't think I've ever seen that happen in a game ever. Right?
I know. And like my girlfriend was there, like my whole family was there. It
Right.
was the night before senior night. Like it was a big time. And
Okay.
so, and the game, so then I got ejected, and then like our coach decided to forfeit the game just because like, I don't remember why exactly. It was a crazy situation. And so I was just crying and like just being an idiot and crying. I couldn't contain myself. I was so embarrassed.
Dude, that must have been
And
painful. Yeah.
yeah, it was super embarrassing. And then I just sat in my car like a block away in my little VW Golf, and like, and then Dom was like the first person at the car, which was so nice. Cause like, if it was one of my teammates or someone else, like I might have been trying to like, keep my, bravado about me and be like, man, screw that umpire or whatever.
Totally.
And, but Dom just sat in the car with me like 10, 15 minutes, just talked it through, made me feel way better.
He was there for you. He was just there in this non-judgmental way, and like he had known you before. He didn't define you by that game, right? He had known you and been with you for fun and all these other ways, and he just knew that you needed someone with him that was non-judgmental. And you remember this, Dom?
Yeah, I remember that. And to touch on like that similar kind of story of honesty and people, like I said earlier in the podcast from the beginning, and how I know I can always count on Ben. My kind of story with that is like during I'd say like 2020, the end of 2021 until like summer 2022. Like I was having a rough time in life, just for many reasons. And I always remember, and I wanted to be alone a lot at that time. Like I didn't want to be around friends at all. Didn't want to be around family. Didn't want to be around friends. I like to just, yes, I wanted to isolate myself, which like, again, I said earlier, like that was never who I was. And that's why that was a hard time for me, because like I wanted to be alone. And I remember when Ben, and I don't know if Ben was living at home because of COVID, or he would just come home or whatever it was. I think it was winter break a lot in my memory. And I was always remember like, because I was living at my grandma's like 5 houses away. And I just remember always going to Ben's, and we'd have like super long conversation just like about what I was going through, and Ben would just listen and like walk me through it. And even if he didn't necessarily have like something to say or like specific advice, he'd always be listening like with an open mind and never judge me. There were certain things where even when I look back on and like what I was feeling upset about or sad about, like I'm like, why was I feeling that way after X amount of time? And like Ben never like he won't, like if I bring it to him again, he'll talk about it, but he'll never, like Ben said, like I didn't bring up that moment, I don't use it again, any of that stuff. And having that kind of friendship with someone, and I don't have that friendship with all my friends, like, and I have very close friends, and Ben is someone that I can go to if I need someone, to just talk to or for some advice. And that's like a very important quality that I really appreciate about Ben and just my other friends too, but especially Ben, because like I'd say I have a decent amount of friends, but there's only like a handful that I really trust with like certain information and me being like completely vulnerable with them.
Yeah. That's such a special quality to have with another person in general, but especially a friendship. And I think especially a brother, a brotherhood, a fellowship, to be able to truly have someone you can truly trust that's been there during certain times when you've been your most vulnerable. I mean, there's not that's like amazing quality of friendship, right? Is to have been at your lowest and then to be able to turn to somebody that they're there witnessing that, right? You were like, that whole isolation thing is because we don't want to be witnessed sometimes at that place, right? We want to be like, social media, we're all great, everything's awesome. But that's not life, right? Life is not like that. And so when we have somebody that witnesses when shit is wrong and bad and our worst, there's a real bond that comes from that. I'm going to switch a little bit because Dom, you have a interesting story I was hoping you would tell, and maybe it's actually really sad. You had a friend that passed away, and I was hoping you could talk about that experience because I think that leads to your vulnerability, and it's a very inspiring story. So I was hoping you'd tell us all about that.
Yeah, so well, my friend Teo, in 2020 during COVID, super hard time for a lot of people, especially young people. And I can speak for myself, but a lot of others. Yeah, my friend Teo, one of my good friends, he passed away. We were in the same, I met him in ninth grade, so I met him in baseball. And he was part of my friend group. I have like 3 or 4 kind of like friend groups of people, but this was like my main friend group in high school, which was me, Teo, Devin, Kaipo, Jonah, and Liam. That was like our main group. Like we all kicked it a bunch, like I'd say from like sophomore year till senior year. And he just was having a hard time. He had a hard time senior year. And like we talked, I don't want to tell his story fully, but he took a laced pill and, just accidentally passed away. And just super heartbreaking just because me and him were really close. He was out of that like group of friends, I was definitely closest with him in the sense of like feeling like I could tell him anything. Like we had very different stories, very different upbringings. Like our experiences were like so different. Like we came from 2 very different worlds. But if you ask anybody who he was just such a good listener, and he always knew what to say. Like he always had an answer for anything. Like he was very, very smart, very intelligent guy. And so that time for me was super hard. I mean, it's still hard, obviously. It's hard losing a friend at 18, especially when you're best friends. And, it's an everyday. you just have to work on keeping it going every day. But for our friend group, and just a lot of people have passed from Berkeley High the last 4 years, but that was like the first of like many. And so like our friend group and other people, like we kind of like, we were the first ones to like deal with that in that span of like the last 4 years. And we it was a hard time, like it still is, but it was a hard time, and it brought all of us closer together, because I had actually kind of like, I stopped hanging out in that friend group as much, just because, I don't know. I mean, friendships, they come in waves, and so I just stopped hanging out with them. But I still hung out with Teo a lot, one on one. And that moment, it does two things, in my opinion. It either brings everyone together, or it really rips you guys apart. And I want to shout out his parents, because without them, like, I don't know where I'd be without them, but I also don't know. I'd still really be grieving so much more than I am without them two, his two moms, Carolyn and Cecily. But they really brought us all together. And we talked about this last time we spoke, but every Thursday, because he passed on a Thursday, for 7 weeks, his parents opened up their house to anyone who wanted to come. And we'd all meet in like circles and kind of just all cry together and share stories and experiences we had with Teo and what he meant to us. And it was just, it really helped with like getting through it with people that had that same feeling as you. And some people who were there didn't know Teo, but they just came because they felt, they didn't know him like, you know, his close friends, but they had some kind of interaction where they felt some kind of feeling to be there, you know. And like I said, his parents were very welcoming. Anyone who wanted to be there could come, because they wanted everyone to heal. And
Wow.
they really personally gave me a lot of strength, because in my head, I'm like, if they can get through this, if they're trying to get through it, and that's their one and only kid, and they're still holding their head high and, you know, getting through the day, then that gives you strength to say, okay, like I can do it too, even though it feels hard. And yeah, that just whole thing really brought, you know, my friend group back together. And
Yeah, you guys got a chance to mourn together, to grieve
yeah,
together. And there's
and
been doing it for thousands of years that people need to grieve together.
mhm.
It's
It just like gave us this opportunity to like all reconnect and become one again. And like none of us knew really how, none of us had like I mean, you know, losing someone who might be a little older, a grandparent, like in the back of your head, you're kind of like, it's still sad when they're gone, but like in your head, you're like, you're not expecting it, but it's not so much of like oh shit. But it's like when you're 17, 18 years old, and you just, you wake up one day, and then you get you get a message from the parents, or your mom and dad come in your room and tell you. It's just like so shocking. And it's like, we were all kids at that point, and it's just to have each other, and, you know, for us all to relate and like lean on, it was just powerful. And then even to this day, like I still see, I'm very close with Teo's parents. Like they're almost like my friends. Like it's
wow.
funny, because Carolyn, one of his moms, just, she always says like, you know, I'm one of her friends now. It's like, and so that's a very special thing, that like Teo lives through me, he lives through his parents, and like he's brought us together now.
It's a great story. It's an amazing, inspiring story of connection, of, you know, him living on through you, and you being appreciative of life at such a young age. Because of course, I think that's very rare, right? We don't, especially if we don't experience death of a young person, it's, you know, we just take it for granted. We just think, well, we're going to live forever. But you really took that opportunity to grow as a human being and to really change your life.
Yeah.
And I admire that, actually. I admire that you took advantage of that and that you pay attention to that feeling, but also how much you give to his family. I can only imagine that you being in their life has allowed for Teo, to continue to live in lots of ways.
Mm-hmm.
And that's very meaningful, I'm guaranteeing, for his family. Shout out to you, man. Right on.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, beautiful.
Thank you. I have some good memories with Ben that I want to share. I remember, well, I have a few. I'll say a few of them all at one go, and maybe they'll spark some stories that Ben remembers that I don't, and some other memories he has with friends, other friends maybe. But I remember this. There's a few. Well, Ben had a trampoline in his backyard, and we used to play this really fun. Sometimes it was just me and him, and sometimes it was like me and Miles and Ben, and sometimes me, Oliver, Miles, and Ben. We play we call it crack pads, and it was like a game where if you got past a certain point, it was like you got a football and you'd say go, and we had to tackle each other before you got to the other side, and that was a super fun game that I used to love playing. And then another game that I really loved was, and I don't know if you remember this, I'm sure you do, but I don't know if you do. We would go up to Caldecott. It would be me, Ben, and his dad. And his dad would bring the lacrosse stick. Ben played lacrosse. And we would go in the outfield, and his dad would put the baseball in the lacrosse ball, and he would just chuck the ball. And I remember we did this a few times, and we would practice diving for the ball super deep. I would tell his dad shoot it a little further so that I have to get there, go there and get it. And I used to love that game. When I think of a really fun childhood memory, that's always one of the first things that come to mind. And then another really fun thing with Ben, in our childhood, was we played on the same baseball team. What, 2 times, Ben? Was it twice? We had 2 different teams, or was it once?
I think just once.
Once, okay. Well, anyways, it was just a super fun time because we'd have practice together at that point, and I didn't live in Berkeley at that point, but that's when I think that was the following year after. And then we played on Willard baseball too.
Yeah.
But it was just fun to carpool to the games together and carpool to the practices, and just be on this winning team together, and just experience that part of it. And then also, we didn't talk about, we used to play there was 4 or 5 kids in our neighborhood or 6 maybe, and we would play hide it. I guess it was tag. It wasn't even hide and seek. It was team tag, and we would play all along Russell down to Piedmont, but you could never go on the other side of Ashley. So you could go on Ashley all the way up to through Pine, up to the top of Russell, on Claremont, down to Avalon. And it was that whole sector. And we would play for hours sometimes, just all of us. And it was such also just a great childhood memory, just super fun. And it was just there wasn't a care in the world, and it's just, and it was the warm summer nights, and just such a good vibe, and just such good memories. So those are just a couple of stories that
being kids together.
Yeah.
Being kids together and enjoying and having fun and being free and striking out on your own and not having parents involved. And then you've talked about this, and not being on your phones and not being on social media, and just running around and playing tag. It's not a lost art, you know what I mean? It's pure friendship fun.
I dearly, dearly miss those times. Those were so fun. Just real experiences. But they were so, so meaningful. It's just that I think we missed, I think or I don't know about our generation, but me and Dom's age, just missed the point where it was normal for a 6-year-old to have an iPhone. Well, actually, this is a funny story that has to do with phones. So, like I said, Dom and I used to yell at each other across to do that. And then obviously Dom's a year and a half older than me, so he got a phone before me. And then it went from yelling each other's name to my mom texting Dom and saying, "Hey, like Ben's around," but I
Nice.
didn't have a phone. And then Dom would only just say K, just the letter K.
Totally.
And my mom had like never heard that before, like never seen like, it was so beyond her that someone would just say K. And she was like, all right, you can go over there, but you got to make sure that he says okay next time, like a normal person. And then, like a year later, like everyone just says K.
Okay.
But
Yeah, right.
I just thought that was funny that like it was just like he would say K and then just like perch up on that fence right there. So that was awesome.
He'd just respond. He would get the message and then pop up in real time. That's awesome.
100%. And then for, I guess, like for some stories from like a less pure time in our lives, this was like 3 weeks before I left for college. And I was like, man, like I don't drink that much. Like I got to learn how to drink and like not like get destroyed. Like I was in pre-college, like drinking training camp. I was like, we got to like, I don't want to get hazed and be like the one that like throws up or something. Like I want to be like the solid guy.
You got to get training. I love it. Hilarious.
Dom, being the inclusive, nice guy that he is, he invited me with people I don't hang out with to go sake bombing in San Francisco. And terrible idea for me. I didn't know. The only person I really knew there was Devin, who's like now one of my best friends, but we were like getting cool at the time. And so, how did I cope with not knowing anyone? I just drank everything that came our way, obviously. And so I got, just hammered in the Castro in the middle of San Francisco at night. It was like 10. And then I was like, what's a good idea right now? I'm going to step outside and I'm going to smoke an entire cigar by myself. That's a great idea. Like, let's go do that. And I think Dom was like, don't do that. Like, please don't do that. Next thing I know, I'm like face down in the concrete, like literally my face in the concrete, and there's like throw up around my face.
Oh shit.
And then Dom just locks into like parent big brother mode and gets in the Uber with me, sacrifices his night. And, Dom has energy. He could be, having a good time to like, later in the evening, gets me home, walks me, in arms up to my mother who's waiting for me, shaking her head. And then Dom like closes the door, like gives me a hug, whatever, kissing me on the head, good friend. And then I give my mom a hug, and over her wall, I'm giving her a hug, throw up all over the kitchen.
Oh shit.
So
terrible.
That's all to say that I'm very happy that we have those pure experiences to look back on. Totally. And then those less childhood, like funny adult, coming of age stories to look back on.
Mm-hmm. No doubt. It really is great that you guys have so much gratitude for your friendships and for these connections, because really the research is very clear, you guys, right? And we know it extremely well now. There's nothing more important than connections and friendships and family and just and human relationships. There's nothing more valuable. There's nothing more that makes a life happier. It's clear. Human connection, friendships, family, people to be around, people to feel a sense of belonging, people to be vulnerable with. It keeps you alive. It's going to keep you alive longer. It's going to make you happier. It's the key and core of well-being from a research perspective. We just know it, and you guys are living it, and you're a great example of it. This was super heartwarming and heartening to me to talk to you. Your perspective is so astute. It's really resonating with me, and I really appreciate your time. Thanks, you guys, for coming on.
Thanks for having us.
Man, that was super fun. Yeah, I had a blast. Thank you for facilitating and setting this up.
Yeah, this didn't feel like a podcast. It just felt like we were having a conversation, which is so important. And
what you guys said today is like gold. It's so good.
I hope you enjoyed this interview with Ben and Dom. These young men gave us something special to behold, a youthful and appreciative understanding of how incredibly valuable friendship is. I loved our discussion on the importance of having friends that you can be honest and vulnerable with, those to have fun with, and those you can depend on, and that special feeling of reconnecting after long periods of time. I was also struck by their thoughts, appreciation, and connection to the place they identify as home. From nostalgic childhood haunts to cherished vacation spots, the places we hold dear often shape our identities and tug at our heartstrings in ways that defy simple explanation. This profound connection between humans and their environments forms the cornerstone of place attachment theory, a fascinating field of study that delves into the emotional bonds we forge with specific locations. These aren't just fleeting emotions. They're manifestations of a deep-seated psychological phenomenon that has captivated researchers for decades. Place attachment theory, at its core, explores the complex web of emotions, memories, and experiences that tie us to particular spaces. Place identity is the part of our self-concept that's tied to the particular location. It's why Ben and Dom and myself proudly proclaim we're from Berkeley, and why others don't feel identified with their hometowns at all, but moreover identify home as where they have lived the longest or where they currently live. Place identity is deeply intertwined in our sense of self, often shaping our values, beliefs, and even our personalities. Emotional bonding to the places we call home is perhaps the most intuitive aspect of place attachment. It's that warm and fuzzy feeling you get when you think about your childhood home or the location you feel most comfortable in or the greatest sense of belonging. These emotional ties can be incredibly powerful and often lasting a lifetime, shaping our future preferences and our behaviors. Places aren't just physical spaces, they're also social environments, and the connections we form with others in those particular places can significantly enhance our attachment to the location. The places where we have had significant life events, positive and negative, often become deeply ingrained in our psyche. This is why the emotional attachment to a childhood home is such a common and powerful phenomenon. Negative place attachment can also occur when a location is associated with traumatic experiences or unpleasant memories. The formative experiences of childhood leave an indelible mark on our relationship with space. Finally, collective place attachment is the basis of community identity and social cohesion. If we foster a society that has a collective place attachment, we can increase social cohesion, more civic engagement, and an overall sense of community commitment. Programs that foster these attachments can help build stronger, more resilient communities. I'm hoping this podcast can be one of those programs, as it highlights the lives of my guests, strengthens their relationships with each other through these conversations, and fosters a sense of community through the audience's attention and appreciation of their stories. I'm curious what you guys think about this. Please subscribe to my Hometown Friends YouTube channel and comment on this episode. You can also follow us on Instagram at Hometown Friends Pod. Stay tuned and stay connected.